Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, the Yankees have done it again, put themselves in another do-or-die situation, drop Game 2 to the Toronto Blue Jays, absolutely get trashed by a score of 13-7, and really wasn't even that close. And the only solace now is that the Yankees return home to the Bronx to see if they could at least stop the bleeding there and stave off getting eliminated from the 2025 season. So we'll look at this second game, which was quite brutal for the Yankees. Not too much to, be happy about, except I guess the only little caveat is that finally offense woke up a little bit towards the end of the game, then was pretty much settled there. So whether that carries over to Game 3 will remain to be seen. So make sure to subscribe to this podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And there's also a YouTube version of the show. Go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe to the channel there as well. So it was kind of like the first game. I mean, even if you listen around after Game 1, a lot of the pundits and experts sort of said, well, Game 1 was the game that Toronto had to win. I mean, you had an established starter in Gausman going up. It was their first game. They didn't know what the rest of the rotation was going to be like the rest of the way. And it's like, if Toronto needed a game, they had to get that first game, and they did do that. So we kind of expected that. When Louis Heel, you didn't know what you're going to get with him. And not saying it was terrible during the few months he pitched in regular season, but he seemed a bit of a different beast there. Obviously, noticed the velocity went down a little bit, trying to be more of a finesse pitcher and try to be more efficient, throwing strikes, so forth. But obviously getting hit hard, and then obviously in this game, after 8+ days of not pitching in the game, got whacked around. Yeah, and of course, boom, with the quick hook, just, I guess when you give up 2 home runs early on and just didn't want the game to get away, and all that worked out well. That was the game where Weaver just let go, and then you figure, all right, you know what? It's okay, let that game go. We're ready for Game 2. We got Max Fried on the mound against a guy named Yashevich, who, again, he's thrown out 3 games in the majors, and you figure you like your chances in that game there. And unfortunately, this pretty much played out similar. Got to Fried pretty early on with a 2-run home run, and just kept smacking Fried around. Basically, he couldn't even get out of the 4th inning at this point, which is you left it kind of scratching himself a little bit, but what's also equally frustrating on the other side, Yashevich, the opposing pitcher, pretty much same as Gausman, just pretty much shutting down the Yankees. And the only reason this guy didn't throw a complete game, almost no hitters there, is just maybe from his inexperience there, is now fully stretched out there. And the guy takes the Yankees into the 6th inning with no hits. I repeat again, in a playoff game with no hits. The Yankees couldn't even touch this guy. He didn't have any stuff like a Cam Schlittler where he's blowing away at 100 miles per hour. Look, he looked pretty decent. Same as Connolly early with the Red Sox. Can't say I've seen much of him to really make a fair judgment. The guy only has like a handful of games. I mean, you got more fingers on one hand than the number of major league starts this guy's had. Mid-90s fastball, seems like to have a good splitter. But at the very least, you have a guy like this completely shut you out and no-hit you in a playoff game was quite embarrassing. So you had that on that end, that's fine. But on the other end, Max Fried just totally getting annihilated in this game. Not like he was walking the ballpark, only gave up 2 walks there, but just hits after hit after hit after hit. And just really overall, if you look at the Yankees, these first 2 games, you lose the first one 10-1, and then lose the second game 13-7. And your pitching staff has given up 23 runs in 2 games there. So Toronto just completely taken the bats to the Yankee pitching staff. And again, I'm not making accusations, but this is going back for years, even with Joe Girardi claiming just different things, that maybe there's cameras up there, maybe the Yankee pitchers are tipping pitches. It's just quite astonishing how that offense has completely ran the Yankee pitching staff out of town there. That was the way the whole regular season has been. Again, Toronto's has not been kind for the Yankees this season. They've been a tough matchup, especially in Toronto. But that really exacerbated itself in this game. Yeah, and the Yankees really have a shot. You're looking by the 4th, 5th inning, the Yankees are already behind 5-0, and you got the guy on the other hand throwing a no-hitter. So that's pretty much where this game was. And only good saving grace there is that Boone was able to save the bullpen. Obviously, once Fried was taken out, put Will Warren in there, and Will Warren took one for the team. He got knocked around as well. Gave up a grand slam to Guerrero. It was just multiple home runs in this game. The Yankees got slapped around left and right. And of course, Weaver put him in there once the game was well out of hand. To get 1 out, so is that going to get his confidence back? No. But at least the only good thing from this game is that the Yankees were able to save their bullpen. Didn't use any of their key guys. And because it's going to be all hands on deck for Game 3, because now the Yankees are again in a pretty much must-win situation. 1 more loss and their season's finished. Now, all that being said, all the doom and gloom, I'll try to find some positives. As I mentioned before, the Yankees finally, the bats got going. Now it's all in garbage time. So what does that really mean? The pitchers just throwing the ball over the plate there just to get this game over with. If you're a pitcher, you're not looking to finesse when you got a humongous lead. You just want to get outs and get out of the game there. So you got to take that into account. But finally, Bellinger with a 2-run home run, Stanton getting a couple of hits, Judge getting a couple of hits. And again, the meat of the order, which came up blanks in Game 1 there, especially during that bases loaded situation. At least getting hits, at least the bats going a little bit. And is that something they could carry over Game 3? Possibly. I mean, you do have the off day Monday there, but that's the only sort of saving grace from this game that was just absolutely terrible. Again, even with Max Fried on the mound, this game was pretty much over by the third inning. I don't know how much solace you take in that, but at least the bats got going a little bit. You didn't have to burn out the bullpen, so everybody going to be fully rested on deck to go for Game 3 for the Yankees. And I guess we found out the matchup's going to be Carlos Rodon versus Shane Bieber. The former Guardians pitcher. Again, you got a former type of Cy Young type of pitcher there. Obviously, those years well behind him. Obviously, coming off a major injury. Toronto kind of picked him up from the scrap heap there. Worked his way. So he got like 7 starts. So he's yet another guy who only thrown a couple of major league games this season, yet going into a playoff game against the Yankees there. So that's going to be a Game 3 starter. They haven't officially announced the Game 4 starter yet. Now it's Cam Schlittler, if the Yankees can even get there, but they have to win this. I just don't think it's over for the Yankees. You asked me yesterday, I would say still, I would assume the Yankees would win the next 3 games in a row by 70%. So can the Yankees still win the series? I say yeah, but now I put the odds of that down a little bit now to about 35%, just because can't say that the Yankees are going to win next 3 games. Obviously, the way this got slaughtered in these first 2 there, but I think the change of environment, I think coming home, I think makes a difference there. Again, just whatever reason, Toronto this season has been a house of horrors for them. They're getting the series back to the Bronx. I just think the change a little bit will help it a little bit. And again, the Yankee bats finally got going a little bit. I think they could take that at least into this Game 3 there. So I would be really shocked if the Yankees get swept. Maybe they could lose the series. Maybe they take it to Game 4 and they lose Game 4. Maybe Cam Schlittler just gasses out early later there, or Toronto's whatever this wins Game 4. I just would find it really hard to believe the Yankees are going to get swept in the series there. So it'd be very tough. This terms the odds of flow. Even if the Yankees have the worst team in the league there, to lose 3 games in a row there against a playoff team, I just don't see it happening there. So I still feel very confident the Yankees taking Game 3. Of course, they got to get the bats going, and they can't have some Shane Biebers come there and shut them down like in these first 2 games where, again, it wasn't even competitive. And, of course, I don't know if you read or saw about the Luke Weaver stuff. He was asked after Game 1 where he just said stuff is good. He just has no confidence at all there. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but he has to even go under Devin Williams now in the pecking order. I mean, seemingly has no confidence. I know he came out for get out one out in Game 2, whoop-de-doo there, but here's a guy he's admitting to you that he has no confidence out there. So that all being said, you cannot put him out there anymore. So I think Boone's not going to put him in. I can't see him putting Weaver in for the rest of this series. The guy's admitting to you that he just has no confidence out there. He doesn't feel good at all there. So why would you put him out there? So again, as much as I'm not a big fan of Devin Williams, and he's been an overall disappointment this season, if you say that, you got to put him out there before you can put Luke Weaver, because Luke Weaver right now is right in the bottom of the pits right now out there in confidence-wise, so I would not put him out there. You just got to hope for a good start from Rendon, who was decent against Boston, not stellar, but gave you 6 decent innings, kept the game close there, and the Yankees able to get that late RBI single by Austin Wells. That's the one where Jazz scored from first there, and able to take that game to stay up for elimination. And at least it looks good news that the Yankees have experience doing this. They had this series with Boston, Game 2 and Game 3 against Boston, where if they lost, the season was over. So the Yankees have that same pressure right now, so I think they're used to the pressure, so I don't think that will get to them. It'll just be bad effect is, can they quiet these Toronto bats down and at least score enough for finally get their bats going there, score enough, and have the bullpen come down and shut it out. So that remains to be seen up there. But again, I at least feel confident taking Game 3. Then it's sort of like you take one step at a time. You say at that point, all right, let's take Game 4. Let's get the series back to Toronto, and then let's see what happens then. But overall, up there at Rogers Center, whatever you want to call it, place Sky Dome, Rogers Center, it's just been a real house of horrors for the Yankees. And these first 2 games, they were absolutely mauled by the Toronto bats there. So didn't see that coming. Even if the Yankees lost this game, maybe, let's say Fried pitched decently and whatever, they lost 6-4, something like that. Like, all right, you're bummed out there. But I wouldn't expect Fried to totally get wiped out like that pretty much in 3 innings. He can only give you 3 innings before you had to yank him out. And then all of a sudden, you give a grand slam. The game is totally out of reach at that point. Quite disappointing for the Yankees. So hopefully take this trip back, get a little angry, get a little fight in them, get a little pride there, and come out strong for Game 3 there. Obviously, if they don't, they're going to be going home. Catch you next time.